Hey, what's up, fam? It's Chappell, host of the Recap Kickback podcast, here for another exit interview from the We Know Reality TV podcast coverage of Fox's new reality show, The Snake. With me, my lovely co-host Jenny Autumn, and our most recently eliminated contestant from The Snake, Mayor John. John, how are you?
I'm great. How are you today?
I'm good, good. Sad to be talking to you, but surprised to be seeing you without your bow tie on.
Oh, no, it's summertime. There's no bow tie today.
It's time
My
to
bait
chill a little.
salesman days are over, bro.
Mayor John is off the clock.
I'm
Yes.
definitely off the clock.
Okay, so let's get to some of these questions from the episode. So last week we saw that you got some power. You were the snake, and then you put the rest of your castmates in a frenzy with your approach to being the snake. Looking
Yep.
back, do you stand by that decision or would you have done something differently?
Oh gosh, I'd do a lot of first I wouldn't come out of the box in week four. I mean, that killed the whole game I
Yeah.
had planned. I
I
probably
bet.
overshared. Yeah, I overshared with production and my strategy. And I think when everybody else started, I kind of got the feeling everyone's left the hotel zone and then it was kind of like well, we gotta have a little sit down. And I was like, you're going to be the late player in this game. I was like, no. So when you come in and you're a politician in a three-piece suit and you're older than everybody, nobody likes that at all. And so it changed the whole trajectory of the game for me in a lot of ways. I ended up playing this really honest game that I had no intention of playing. I was really preparing to just invent myself as I went. And I think it changed how I played the game in the way that in week seven, when I was the snake, I was a little too transparent about what I was trying to telegraph to people. So the goal was that you don't see all of it through the weeks before that, but there was a lot of just effort to build trust because everybody is stabbing each other in the back and coming to me and going, I think this person is just flat out, lying to me. They're trying to get rid of me. And I would never really affirm or deny things. And people knew I had information, but I wasn't really transparent because I was trying to figure out who do I trust first. And I think for me, the goal was in the prior eliminations, four, five, and six, what you don't see a lot of is there's full on speeches that are made. Like we're there for quite a while. People are making pitches to do this and that to the snake. And I kept hearing people say, you didn't reach out to me enough. You didn't spend enough time with me, or you're too biased in favor of this person. There was a lot of feelings about how people were treated while they were the snake and how people felt treated by the snake. And so I listened really carefully and I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm kind of this more neutral player in the game at this point, even though everybody was afraid of me the whole time. I think what I need to do is telegraph to everybody that one, I'm going to be equitable about this and I'm not going to give anybody all my time or leave anybody like wondering what's going on. And I'm going to treat you all the same because we're going to have the same conversation so that everybody has kind of this idea that like John is fair. That's the only goal I was trying to get out of it. I didn't do it well. Clearly, a week later, I'm gone. So like I didn't do it very well in the end. It backfired in my face a little bit, but it was an effort for me to show people. And I do think you see in episode 8, and what doesn't play out is I was having conversations with Jack and McLean about working. They were starting to see the benefits of working with me a little bit, I think. And people were realizing maybe he's actually beneficial. I didn't get there fast enough, but I definitely was trying to plant those seeds for people that, you got a guy who could work with you on pretty much anything, just wants somebody who's trustworthy. Didn't work.
John, so obviously you talk about the honest game, being upfront with people, and that was very clear in how, especially how you handled your time as the snake. But we do get a little look at maybe a little bit of deceit under the surface. We see this flashback in the episode of the conversation with Amanda when you were the snake, and you were basically trying to enlist her to be like some sort of
Mhm.
double agent. And this ends up being a really big thing at the saving ceremony. What can you tell us a little bit more about what that conversation was about? What were you trying to accomplish there? And how did Amanda fully respond? Because we obviously see you guys go a little bit back and forth about what
Mhm.
really happened there.
Yeah, so one of the things that I tried to do was I tried to figure out so they showed that I had all these like preliminary 3-minute interviews. Then I did a follow-up meeting with everybody after I heard everybody's answers and I tried to figure out if I could actually blindside somebody. So I originally planned to blindside Catherine. I didn't want to tell her to her face. And I talked to a couple people, Amanda was one of them, about helping me do that. People who I thought were playing the game well. I think Amanda played the game really well. Through this point, she's been a smart player, I think. And I had a conversation with her about helping me deceive Catherine and Jordan into believing that they would be saved near the bottom and then they wouldn't be. And we couldn't reach an agreement about how to do that. That was, I mean, in summary, without going through the whole conversation, we just couldn't reach an agreement about how to do that. And I tried with a couple people to do that who I thought I could confidentially do that. And then it comes back and you see it in this kind of flashback in week 8, mostly because what's interesting to me is Jack approaches me. I did not approach Jack at all. He's already the secret snake, and he comes up and he's like, "What are your thoughts on Amanda?" And I mean, Amanda was not my target at all, to be honest with you. And he's like, "What are your thoughts on Amanda?" And I'm hearing Amanda might be, looking to gun me down. And I was always happy to feed the paranoias of other people in the house without agreeing that anything was true. And you see me do this the week before in week 6 when Jordan is the snake. Most people miss my language choices, but Jordan is hearing from people that Christine is saying stuff about her. And she and I are talking, and I say, "Would you believe me if I said that Christine is gunning for the two of you?" I didn't say Christine is saying that. I said, "Would you believe me if I told you that?" And Jordan says, "Yes." And I let her leave with the belief that she took away, but I never said that. I just knew she was paranoid about it, and I just decided let her chase somebody else. And so I thought Jack is confessing that he's paranoid about Amanda. Let him chase Amanda. Amanda has never said to me she wants to get Jack. In fact, she was on team get rid of Catherine, but he was really worried about it. And so I just decided, I said, well, there were 7 people who wanted to get rid of Catherine and 3 people who wanted to get rid of you. I can't answer any more questions because I promised confidentiality. But he immediately deduces it's Amanda, and I was happy to let him do that. So that's kind of where that goes. But it comes back because Amanda figures out what's going on, and he decides to flip the script, decides I'm lying to him, even though I didn't. He just didn't follow the path really well. And I think, she doesn't like kind of being exposed. And I just decided, since Amanda outplayed me, I was going to leave Amanda with a little gift on the way out and let everybody know you should see for yourself. She's defensive for a reason. Have I lied to anybody? Because I knew they all knew I hadn't lied to them about anything. Have I lied? I'm telling you, this woman was willing to work to get rid of people. And I just left that as a little parting gift for Amanda. Yeah.
Seeing you come in late, you definitely have acknowledged that it's not the best spot to come in. I know
Yep.
Christine said she was surprised that she even was late. She didn't even realize that she wasn't coming in with everybody else. But you were able to work your way into one of the more powerful alliances alongside Frankie and Alyssa, and kind of with Jordan, depending on what minute of the day you were talking to her. How did that come about? And tell us about that alliance that you ended up with.
Yeah, I think it began early. So like this was like being in high school again. It was like, which lunch table do you sit at, sort of thing, is what it felt like at times. And like they were totally like I was with like the punks and the goths in high school, and so I would have sat at their table because they would have been the cool kids in my mind. And so yeah, Frankie and Alyssa were just naturally kindred spirits, and it did suck that we were trying to find a fourth person, and it doesn't show as well as it could probably, but we definitely felt it was Jordan. We definitely felt it was Jordan. We liked Catherine, but Catherine was so obviously like a master backstabber. It was never in our interest to build a strong alliance with Catherine, and we all kind of knew that, I think. And so the thing was, we kept telling Jordan, Catherine is not, she's going to bring your game down or whatever. And Jordan, to her credit, like defended Catherine to the very end. And there's something to be said about that level of loyalty and support. But we clearly were trying to peel her away. And I finally reached the conclusion that if anyone was going to get blood on their hands, it had to be me because nobody else wanted to, and I was going to have to kill Catherine to basically like, prisoner Jordan as our partner. It didn't go as well as it could have. I mean, I think Jordan saw the strategy and saw what we were doing near the end and realized we weren't trying to get rid of her, but it didn't win her over the way we had hoped. At least in my case, yeah.
John, if you had survived here, obviously, because we see, the way things unfold, Jack is talking through, his two bigger threats to his game at this point he sees as Frankie and Amanda, and then obviously like Amanda doesn't become available to eliminate through the chain, but we see things boil down to you versus Frankie, and Frankie is someone that Jack has been consistently saying is like the best player in the game. Based on your interaction with Amanda, it seems that you probably knew that things were not looking good, but um, did you feel like there was maybe a chance that Frankie goes here? Like what was your feeling and how to defend yourself between in this scenario here?
Yeah, I think at a like an intrinsically intuitive level as a people person, I was like, it's me who's going. I was cognitively aware that like there's another choice, right? And it could be the other person. I realized it was going to be Frankie. Once I saw Amanda get picked, I was like, this is, and it's going to be me versus Frankie. The other thing was it became known to people. Everybody was doing whatever the snake was dictating for the most part, with the exception of a couple clear instances where Devontae gets screwed by a couple. Derek sets him up perfectly. Like there's a couple places where Catherine does some stuff, but everybody else was like sticking to whatever was being told to them because they just wanted to survive in a given week. And I was the person behind the scenes who was stirring the pot of we have to screw a snake. It doesn't come out, but I was basically trying to get people to say, like, we actually, like, the rest of us have the power to screw a snake. Like, we need to talk about how to do that. And it needs to be packs bigger than two. I kept telling people 3 or 4 people is going to be required to, if you get put in the bottom, you still have somebody who's up on the chain to be your partner the next week. You can't be stuck and then be a lone ranger, right? And so I was trying to get people to see that. And I think Frankie and Alyssa were the first people to kind of get that. And we were moving in that direction. I think that's what made me, it doesn't come out in all these episodes, but I think the strategy stuff did leak out in ways that people were like, John is too strategic. And I think in the case, the example you're kind of mentioning with like Frankie at the end, it got out that he was going to save me no matter what if he was on the chain. So like we had started making those agreements that even if people tell us what to do, we'll tell them whatever they want, but we're going to just fuck them. So I think that's kind of what happened. And I think in the case of pick John or Frankie, yes, I do think there for all the social reasons, Frankie was definitely the strongest player in the game at this point, and he was definitely the threat that Jack properly assessed him to be. And I think at the same time, I was just too smart or too strategic for people who weren't close to me. They were scared of that. And they saw me working with other people and effectively, and they were scared of that. And so in the end, it's like, well, I think a lot of the players, to be honest with you, I think Jordan did this. She, talks a big game about, I hope they kill off a tough or a strong player, but she kills off Christine. I mean, I think people killed off who they thought everybody else they'd appease, as opposed to like pick a fight with the other faction in the house sort of thing. So I think that's why I faced that demise. I didn't really think that they'd get rid of Frankie. I didn't expect that because I think he'd have blowback the following week from Alyssa and Jordan and even Mac. I think Mac had a lot of love for Frankie, and I think that would have been a problem for him in his bed.
So quick
Hmm.
follow-up to that. You survive. So say that, Jack makes a different decision, does
Mhm.
decide to get rid of Frankie and face whatever consequences come. You survive this. What's your move going forward? Because, you discussed your intentions of kind of just going with the House consensus. Does that mean you target Jack next because he is the person next to Catherine that got those votes, or do you pivot now that the board's kind of shifted?
I would have gone after Derek. To me, Derek was the other very strategic player in the game. Derek and I in week 5, he picks me first in week 5. We had a couple conversations, and it became very clear to both of us how much strategy and intelligence each of us were using that we didn't display all the time. And so to me, Catherine, I would have been like, I would have wanted to be a villain on steroids if I had started the game at the beginning, just never told anyone the truth and made everyone think he's a charming guy who's just stabbing people. But you can't do that when you come in so late. So I thought Catherine and Derek were, to me, they were my biggest threats because they played the game the way I would have played the game from the beginning in different ways. And I would have wanted Derek out of the picture. And Derek knew that. I think Derek was terrified when I won the week 7 snake. I think he was rightfully terrified because I think he thought I was going to go for him. I just didn't see a path in that week to getting rid of Derek, because he had properly insulated himself at that point with Brett and Jack and also Amanda. And there was too many places he could be saved. And so it was too risky for me. But I would have gone after Derek. I know I would have been Alyssa's. I mean, Frankie at one point said, if I ever get eliminated, you have to promise to be Alyssa's ride or die. And I was like, absolutely. So I was there in case either of them got eliminated to be partner with the other, but that would have probably been my situation. Jack was a top choice to get rid of, but I think Jack, he played the game aggressively, different than Catherine aggressive. He played the game like a little more obviously to people, and I think he had so many people targeting him. I didn't want to do the work of getting rid of Jack because I think people were going to get rid of Jack. He obviously is still there, but Derek would have been my choice. Yeah.
So, if things had gone your way in this episode and you were
Mhm.
able to help Frankie become the snake, were you
Yeah.
going to try to push Frankie to go toward Derek? And do you think Frankie would have gone for that?
I think so. The way Frankie worked and the way like we had talked about it, like they wanted to get rid of one of the boys, and at that point, it was about closing the deal on convincing them that Derek wasn't a bro officially. Like he had kind of been anti-bro and all this, like, Devontae's, I got to get rid of Devontae. He's evil for me and blah blah blah. But I think the show does a good job of showing this transformation of Derek and his evolution in the show as a player. And it was a good move on his part. It gave length to his survival. I mean, he looked like he was going to sink on the Pastor Jacob ship the first week I was there, but he played the game well. And I think they were coming to the conclusion. Alyssa had already reached the conclusion that Derek was a problem for us long term, and I think we would have just been stuck again with the question of how do we do it, right? Like how do we do it? And I think there's a way in which we could have done it to put Derek and Amanda. And once Catherine is out of the picture, I think between Alyssa, Jordan, Frankie, and I, we would have been able to stack the top, and we would have picked Mac, who would have picked Jack, who would have picked Brett over Derek. And I think you'd have Amanda and Derek in the bottom, and I think we'd have gotten rid of Derek. So I do think there's a path for which we would have done it. And I just had a high risk, high reward game to play because I knew I had no real deep allyship. I knew I was a target from the moment I stepped out of the box. And when the rules were read for week 8 and it just said you have to put a coin in a box, I made the strategic decision that I didn't need to take on additional risk. What I should have done was put one in my box just so that people couldn't avoid me. That was a mistake I made for sure. And I thought about it literally a minute after I finished the game. I was like, what the fuck am I doing? I should have kept one so that people can't be like, what if he wins on the one lotto ball? But I decided to put all my eggs in a basket, and I wanted to also still convey to people I'm loyal to people who I trust. So like figure out how to figure that out. And I think people had just started to see it, but it was too late for me. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the challenge itself, and
Yeah.
maybe how it stacked up against some of the other really disgusting challenges? Because you definitely hauled ass in the chum. Like there's a reason that Frankie got so many of those chips, and you were really running this, but it on TV it's definitely looking very, very disgusting. How did this stack up in terms of all the challenges?
Oh my God. So I chose to go on the show after I got contacted and recruited as a recent politician, mostly because it was framed as a challenge competition. And I just have been dying to do a challenge of any kind. Love that stuff. And so I threw my body into all these things. In your late 40s, I don't recommend most of this stuff for your body and your physical health. Like I had bruise falling off that beam. I had like a giant black bruise on my leg. Like I totally mangled my body. I filed my fingernails away. But I think this challenge, the hard part about TV is you cannot smell
Hmm.
how how this was gross. And so for me, I don't have any fears really. I don't. So for me, it was like heights, no problem. Claustrophobia, no problem. Like 120 degrees, this or that, whatever, no problem. So like swimming in like fish chum or whatever, like not a problem for me. It doesn't change the fact that your body has a different perspective of the environment. And so what thankfully you don't see in the episode is I get out of the thing, they blow the gun or whatever it ends, and I walk over to the side of the set and I'm just like, I don't throw up, but I'm like for like 3 minutes, and I just keep saying out loud, it's mental, John, it's mental, John.
It's
And
not.
everyone's like, it's okay. And I'm gonna be fine. I'm like, we move somewhere. Because it was so putrid. I mean, I think McLean says she's like, or Jordan, one of them is like, it smells like manure and dead fish. That's a nice way of putting it. It was so rank. I mean, congratulations to whatever person sat in a dark room and decided, let me destroy these people's senses for a day. Like, I couldn't smell, taste anything for like 2 days. It was like, they're like, what do you want to eat? I'm like, does it matter? It's going to smell like fish shit. I was like, let's just eat it. So yeah, it was a pretty, and then they had these ropes over it, and you couldn't
Mhm.
really lift your head very high because they were really heavy, like boat ropes.
Kept you
So
down.
you had to stay in it. You could kind of put your head up to the side or along the edges. So you kind of had to wear it. A couple people's goggles came off. I mean, Jack's goggles came off. His eyes were like purple. They were flushing his eyes afterwards. I was like, dude, he's like, oh, the goggles were fogging. I'm like, you can't take your goggles off and that shit. Like, so
I'd worry about an infection there.
I mean, yeah, they were definitely trying to prevent everybody from getting sick, for sure. The medical team was on point the whole time, but it was gross, but I didn't mind it. Like for me, like these things are like what made it fun. So I had a good time with it. And yeah, I collected probably the lion's share of them for Frankie for sure. He was kind of slow getting in and out. He's like, "Why are you doing this?" I was like, "We'll talk about it later," because I never had a chance to strategize. They read the rules and they start the game. So I never got to say, like, I was going to try to get Alyssa to help. I was like, we should all just go, in on a guy who, if he wins, we have an argument for why we get saved. I was like, that was the strategy. It was like, well, I saved because I helped him. So for me, it was high risk, high reward. And I thought it's a lotto. And the best thing I can do is just help up probability for somebody. And that's why I did it.
So, what was your experience watching the show now and seeing? Well, I guess let's start with prior to you entering the house, maybe some
Yeah.
of the drama that you missed, and then
Yeah.
some of the stuff you've seen since you've come into the house and kind of your perception of from the other castmates' point of view.
Uh, of me, yeah. So I would say prior to coming in the house, it was interesting. I had heard about the trauma bond. Some folklore is shared with you when you enter the house, and the trauma bond is a piece of it. And so everyone felt like that the new players who didn't do the food challenge with the eating the weird stuff or the snakes, they felt like we weren't worthy of the show in some ways because we hadn't done all the things. And it's like, dude, I would have been here letting snakes bite through my fingers if I could have. But it definitely created the factions, and then they felt very like everybody else was an outsider. Like we're mortal enemies, but everyone else is an outsider. So interesting pieces that didn't get shown. So when I come in week 4, after they all guess what my occupation is, and you hear vape salesman, I was called a milkman. I had a whole bunch of things that were called, and of
Milkman.
course, oh God,
Milkman is crazy.
magician. I had a magician was thrown
Oh
out there.
no, not
Dude, I'm gonna
that.
tell you
Not a
the list of
magician.
jobs I have if I want to wear that suit again, which I'm never gonna wear again. Like the list of jobs I have is a hilarious list. None of them happen to be mayor. They're all something else, like real estate baron, like all these
Is
things. It was,
Baron.
dude, seriously, I was hilarious. And the vape salesman made it to
Oh.
TV, and I am the worst vape salesman. But I will say that after they made those guesses, and I tell them that I'm a former mayor, and Alyssa wants to know what state that is. They actually give them all 30 seconds to pitch me on which person should get the first one-on-one with me to tell me how the game is played and what's going on. And I was struggled between picking Catherine and Christine. And I chose, so they all made a pitch. You don't see any of those pitches, but it was between the two of them. And I chose Christine because she was a teacher, even though she didn't teach very long. And I chose her because she was a teacher and also a late addition to the game. And I'm happy I met Christine, but she turned out to not be the best opportunity for me to have a strategic like partner in the game. And truthfully, if I had chosen Catherine, I think this game would have been different for both of us because I think I would have probably tried to work with her, and I think I would have seen the same things everyone else saw, and then I would have been like, "What? Who's tried the double villain thing before? Like, let's just do that." So I think I missed my boat with Catherine at that dinner table, and I should have probably picked her. But Pastor Jacob kept raising his hand, like, "Pick me," and I
The
was
true
like,
villain.
"Yeah,
Yeah.
no, he wanted me to do the one-on-one with him," and I'm like, "No, not you." It's like the guy raising your hand is not getting picked. So the breakfast the next day, he pulls me from breakfast and he takes me down and he gives me this whole like I felt like he was reading the Bible to me, the entire story of the history. It was like Genesis 1:1. Let me tell you what happened the day we arrived off the ark.
In the
And it was
beginning.
like Pastor Jacob giving the lore of the whole show to me through his eyes, and then he's eliminated that night. And it was kind of hilarious for me because I was like, okay, well, thanks for leaving behind this book of information. And I played the game largely with the details he provided me, which didn't obviously benefit me.
Uh-oh.
No, yeah, danger, danger, right? But I played the game for a while with some of that information until I collected information of my own. And I think looking back and watching the show, I'm definitely made to look like a bit of a dweeb and like a guy who's not quite all with it. Like, what's his strategy? They don't show a lot of the other things I did, and that's fine. Like, I think there has to be a guy who's a bit of a square in the show, and that's me in this case because I'm in a three-piece suit and I'm a vape salesman. So it's fine. But I think the thing that I didn't expect was there are some people who are like just have deep personal insecurity. And you learn that when you spend enough time with them. And the show actually shows you truthfully how deeply insecure some of these people are. And so, and how challenging some of their real life relationships were. And I've watched some of their exit interviews and I'm like, wow, these people really do have like issues with each other. So that's been an interesting piece for me because I played the game like this is a game. Like, like I'm here to win. I'm here to have a good time. But I think some other people showed up with baggage in tow, and that's been an interesting thing to watch on TV. Places that you didn't see it, that it's finally aired in real time. Yeah.
Well, John, I think that the viewers and listeners of our podcast are probably collectively feeling the FOMO of what could have been with you and Catherine as a villainous power duo.
That would have been
But
fun. She's very good. She's very good.
with that said, is this something that you're ever going to want to do again? Did you you said you wanted to be on some sort of challenge show? Like, what's on the horizon for you and what you want to do?
So I had never set out to be on reality TV. This was such a educational adventure for me. I had a lot of fun. I learned a lot. I had some heartache at different points in this process myself. But yeah, when I had this vision, I was like, I'm gonna get to be on an amazing race or a survivor. Like those were my mindsets. Like I'm the guy who most people don't know I do a 30-day wilderness survival hike by myself every year. I do 400 miles in the woods by myself. And come back, unscathed, see porcupines and bears and wolves and whatever. And I do that kind of stuff. So for me, that's kind of where my mind went, like travel around the globe, solve puzzles and make my way. It would have been a better game for me than a game that really heavily relied on a strong social element, especially when you come in late. So I don't know that I'll ever seek to be on a TV show again like this, but if that opportunity presented, that would kind of be the narrow space in which I would do it. Yeah.
Okay, well, in the meantime, where can people follow you and keep up with what you have going on? And what do you have coming, I guess, in the future that anybody of your fans could look forward to?
Yeah. If I have fans, amazing. Like, what show are you watching that I'm in that I'm doing well in? It's like, dude, I do not have any fans.
I'm sure you have
That's
fans.
not. I'm sure you do.
There's fans.
Alyssa is my fan, I think. I think Alyssa.
Frankie probably loves
Frankie
you.
is probably my fan. Alyssa.
That's two. Jenny and I,
got it.
we
They're
Yeah.
actually high
four.
quality. Okay,
And
four.
then
I'm at
their
four
fans by proxy.
There you go. There
Our
you go.
fans, your fans. Yeah, where
Yeah,
can the
we're in this
people
together.
find you? We're a team.
All right, this is amazing. I feel like I've made a turn for the better. So on my Instagram and my Twitter, everything is just at John Bouters, JOHNBAUTERS. I have a consulting practice called Bike Mayor Strategies. I'm America's Bike Mayor, and so I do provide consulting to people who really want to make their cities more kid-friendly, people-friendly, open space for people to have a good time. I'm all about helping people do that. But in terms of my adventures, yeah, you can follow my hikes and my outdoor adventures on my social media. I post stuff on Instagram now. I didn't do that before the show, but now you can follow me on my treks into the outdoors. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, John. Anything else you want to leave us with before we go?
No, I just think you guys are fun, and I appreciate that you do this and you love doing it. It clearly shows, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the season. It's going to be good.
All right. Thank you
Thanks,
so
John.
much. Everyone, that was John Mayer. I'm sorry, Mayor John, the most recently eliminated contestant from The Snake. To keep up with more of our coverage of The Snake and other reality TV shows, please subscribe to the We Know Reality TV podcast feed on WeKnowRealityTV.com. Peace.
This is RHAP. We Know Reality TV.